everyone, and welcome to a video with a very interesting topic. Force feedback. So in this video, I don't know, I jumped then. In this video, I'm going to show you my force feedback settings for Gran Turismo Sport and Assetto Corsa Competizione. And then I'm just going to talk about why they might not necessarily be the best for you, or maybe they will. Let's look into it. So, first of all, my actual force feedback settings. I'll show you these straight away, then you've got them. Then all the questions about force feedback can disappear into the nether. So, GT Sport, in terms of force feedback, control sensitivity, I have on 7. Now, I have it on 7 ever since it was introduced back in GT5. I've always put it on 7. I don't know whether it affects the wheel at all. It used to just be for the pad. I don't know. I just keep it at 7. That's what it is. Max torque, I put on 3. And sensitivity, I put on 4. So if you go into the menu, it's 7, 3, 4. Nice and easy. And I use that for all cars, all settings. I don't ever change that. It's been like that since the year dot. Now for Assetto Corsa Competizione, I use 50% strength. And it's what I've been using for the most part. However, there's a setting in the car setup. I can't remember exactly what it is. I should be able to highlight it or put it on screen for you. But basically, if you change this, that impacts the force feedback. So when we were doing a 10-hour of Silverstone and Killian sent me his setup, I suddenly went out and I was like, oh my word, why is my wheel so heavy? I think my force feedback's broken. No, it was this random setting, but I did have to lower my strength on my force feedback. But I'm back to 50 now. So with most of my setups, 50% seems to be a perfect area for me personally on the Assetto Corsa. And all I do is adjust the strength. If it's too strong, I just lower the strength. And that's all I want from a wheel, to be honest with you, is to be able to just adjust the strength. So, you know, I've talked about in the past my Fanatec CSL Elite, and I did own that, and I had low tail pedals as well, how there was a lot of settings in that wheel. And that's one reason why I didn't particularly like it. You can set profiles in the Fanatec CSL Elite, which is very good, and that's what I did because I was playing Project Cars 2 and Gran Turismo at the time. However, it was still felt like I may have been missing something in certain cars because you've got all the different wheel rotations that you had to set up individually on the wheel. It was very complicated. But force feedback was just, yeah, I just want to plug in and play. And that's what I like from most wheels. Plug in, adjust the strength to what I like, and then I can play it from there. So, now here's the point I need to make. And this is half the point of this video, basically. So, you've seen my settings, and you might go, excellent, I'm going to be a super alien now because I've got Tidgney settings. Great, here we go. Wrong. So, force feedback is your own personal preference, okay? It doesn't matter what I use because, to give you an example, I think Johnny Tormler was like this. There may be other esports players like this. Players that go between a lot of the esports games. So they're going between F1 to iRacing to Gran Turismo to Project Cars 2 or whatever it might be. Players going between all these games, they can't necessarily have a high force feedback. The reason for that is because each game translates force feedback differently. So to get the same feel, obviously the more you use it, the more you've really got to dial it into what you like. So some of these players, I know Johnny Tormler was like this. I don't know of anybody else. Well, I was told he was like this anyway. So, I mean, if you watch this video, which I doubt, but you can comment below, used no force feedback whatsoever. So in the end, this just turned into an input device. No force feedback. You can jump into any game because all this does is turn the wheel. That's it. No need to worry about force feedback. Now, there are other esports players. GT Sport has a prime example of this. Some of the Japanese players absolutely love force feedback. Absolutely love it. So they have got 10 and 10 in terms of their strength, the torque and sensitivity. 10 and 10. And they're properly going for it. Do you know what I mean? They're proper. You can see them absolutely tensing up, properly going for it. However, that might not necessarily be good for you either. It's especially not good for you if you're in team events. So like the Nürburgring World Tour, the very first World Tour, we were in teams. People obviously like strong settings. Some people like weak settings. Now you're in a team. You can't change the settings on the fly. You've got to come up with a compromise. If you use very heavy settings, for example, and you're then in a team, suddenly you're going to have to compromise. If you're only like very light settings, suddenly you're going to have to compromise and actually, get used to a bit of a heavy setting. You do have to be careful of that. But in those two situations that I've just described, they're all competing at the top level. Completely different force feedback settings. It's their personal preference. And that's what I'm trying to get across here. So for me personally, what I like to use is fairly light wheel, and it has a little bit of strength in there in terms of force feedback. Just enough so that if I'm counter steering or etc., I can counter steer quite quickly, but then I can start feeling some resistance and I can judge accordingly from that. Same going through a corner, I can turn, and then there's a little bit of resistance there that stops me going all the way. The muscles work slightly, and that's it. And that is force feedback in a nutshell. It's just very simple as that. Very short video in the grand scheme of it. I just wanted to get my settings out there because I get asked all the time. And it's something that I really think needs to be said constantly, in that it doesn't matter what my settings are. You may very well be different. You may be bulked up and you think that my settings are so weak. You have to have it on 10 out of 10 because you need that feeling. You know, we are all different people. We all have different personal preferences. As I say, I prefer very much light wheel with a tiny bit of weight. In fact, I think I read the other day, Koke uses the exact same settings as me in Gran Turismo. That's just coincidence. That, you know, we've never talked about force feedback settings before to each other. I don't think so anyway. But, you know, it just gives you an idea. So you can, by all means, use my settings. I'm not saying they're the best for you. I'll say that is going to be it in terms of force feedback. I hope you enjoy it. I'll say short video in the grand scheme of it, but there's lots of different kind of videos coming up, very much like this, where we talk about different subjects, etc., or look at something, and we'll go from there. If you did like it, as always, give it a thumbs up. Just help me out, cost you nothing. Subscribe if you want to stay in touch with all the content. And yeah, that is going to be it for me now, folks. Do have a good week of racing, as always, and I hope to see you in another video or live stream very soon.